It's your boy King Newbert here with an interesting video. Today I am going to do NBA talking, so I'm going to talk about my opinion about the NBA, where players should go or how teams could get better in my opinion. Um to start off, I want to talk about James Harden and the Rockets. I feel like if the Rockets trade James Harden, they got to get a top player just like James Harden or two good players that's at least in the top 30 in the NBA. If they can't get nothing like that, I would not trade James Harden. I would low-key just trade Westbrook. But if the Rockets do make a trade with 76ers, I would not try to get Ben Simmons. I would try to go for Joel Embiid and have him and Westbrook. I feel like that would be better for them. But I don't see the Rockets doing that, and I can't see the Rockets getting Ben Simmons. It would make no sense to me them doing that. And if they do make a trade for like Ben or James Harden with Joel Embiid, I would trade Westbrook because I don't think Westbrook is going to be good to play with Joel Embiid. I think that would be not that good. There's better options, and I feel like James Harden is a good key person for the Rockets. Like he makes the Rockets offense. I'm not saying because all the Rockets whatever are bad. It's just how he plays on the team makes the Rockets a big contender to try to win a championship. And I would trade Westbrook to get a decent point guard and a center that can spread the floor so they have a big man. That's what I would do if I was the Rockets. Instead of trading James Harden, I would just get another point guard that can shoot and spread the floor and a big man that can play a stretch. But other than that, I would not change James Harden if I was the Rockets. I would just trade Westbrook. That's just in my opinion. And if they do trade James Harden, I would try to go off for like a Giannis because the Bucks is Loki. Like that's if the Bucks decides to trade him. Because if he's not going to sign whatever, or I would try to go for someone like Kawhi, even though the Clippers say Kawhi is untouchable. Okay, now I am going to talk about Giannis, what team he should do, like what he should go to or whatever, or should he stay. I feel like the best option for him is to like to see if what the Bucks is going to do. I will wait for it to see what the Bucks is going to do before I make my decision if I was Giannis. Because if they can get like a player like a Chris Paul, something like that, to make it the team better, I would stay if I was Giannis. Because they'll just need like a playmaker and another shooter, in my opinion, for the Bucks to be a championship team. But if they can't, teams that I would like to see him go to is the best fit for him. My per se, I think the best fit for him is to go to the Warriors because like for Giannis that would complement like that would be the perfect team because he's a more slasher. You got to surround him with shooters, and I think with Curry and Clay, he can do that easier on the Warriors than the Heat. But the Heat, I feel like if he goes to the Heat, it wouldn't be as good as if he went to the Warriors because I feel like they're going to make Jimmy Butler shoot more since they got Giannis, and for that, I feel like Jimmy Butler's not going to be as good as he was this year, shooting wise. But I feel like at defense wise, they're going to be a perfect team, like for like the Lakers, something like that. So I feel like Giannis should low key see if the Bucks can give him something good. If they can't, then it is what it is. I feel like the he should stay for the Bucks because I don't think the Bucks are really bad. I feel like they do got a chance of winning, and I feel like that's a strong team. They just need a couple more players. Like see if could get Chris Paul and just another shooter to help Giannis, in my opinion. And I feel like a maybe like a Joe Angles or something, like just someone that can shoot, space the floor to help him. And I feel like Giannis, if he does leave, the best option for him to do is go to the Warriors. Yeah, and Chris Paul. This is one interesting. I feel like whoever get Chris Paul is not going like unless he goes to like a top team, he's not going to win a ring. But he's going to make the playoffs. Like nobody thought Chris Paul was going to be good enough to make his team go to the playoffs. If Chris Paul go to like the Lakers, Bucks, like two teams like that, he's probably going to be there to get a championship. Like I can see him having good odds to get a championship ring, especially if you go to the Lakers. I feel like if Chris Paul go to Lakers, Lakers definitely win another ring because you got two good people like him and LeBron on the same team. Chris Paul like impacts just so big. He's like the best traditional point guard. I'm not saying he's the best point guard, but he's the best traditional point guard that like makes his team better. So I feel like if Chris Paul goes to the Lakers, that would be the best point guard like Lakers can actually get that I would try to go for, or the Lakers can just go to get D Rose. But if Chris Paul goes to the Knicks and they get like a some type of another star, because I feel like the Knicks got options to trade, got young players to trade, got nice access to trade to get good players if they want to win. But if I was them, I would try to get a good leader like in Chris Paul to develop their team to make their team good, like how he did to OKC. Like they wouldn't win, but to get him to come there, make their young people better. I feel like the Knicks in the long run is not going to be that. I'm not going to say they're going to be good, but I don't think they're going to be like the worst team anymore. They really don't have no leaders on their team to lead their team. Their team's just too young and they just not developed yet. But I feel like Chris Paul should go to either the Lakers or the Bucks. And the Clippers, if I was the Clippers, if they don't trade Kawhi or Paul George, they probably low key going to be not that good. They not winning a championship. I can tell. Their chemistry is not going to be there because they had a fight. Paul George had a fight in the locker room, so I don't think their team's really going to be that good. And I know they say Kawhi is untouchable, but the people, my opinion, if they do trade Kawhi Leonard, I would go for James Harden or Giannis. And I feel like either the Bucks or the Rockets should actually do that trade because I don't think that's a bad trade at all for Kawhi. If you give James Harden for a Kawhi or Giannis, I feel like that's a decent trade. But I would low key trade Paul George to like either the Nuggets. I feel like the Nuggets probably would be like the best players wise for Paul George to go because they could get like Jared Grant or somebody, Gary Harris, and someone else and some picks for Paul George. And I would trade Paul George before the season start because if he's like worse, like how he was in the playoffs, his value is going to go down more, and it's going to be harder for people to want him and harder for him to get traded. So I would, if I was Clippers, I would trade him to either Brooklyn to get DeAndre Jordan, Spencer, and maybe DeAndre Jordan. I feel like if they do that, it's a good trade because they get a better point guard. They get a center that they lose in a Montrezl Harrell, and they get a shooting guard in Karis LeVert when Paul George is playing shooting guard for that team. So I feel like that would be a big dub for them if they did that. Trade it for the Nets, but better players you can get from, in my opinion, the Nuggets and Jared Grant and Gary Harris and someone else. But if they could trade Kawhi and Paul George, I would trade Kawhi to get James Harden or Giannis. And if I was the Bucks, I would do that trade for Kawhi for Giannis because you're not really losing. Like in my opinion, they both top five players. So you really not gonna lose anything. Like yeah, Giannis was the MVP for that team, but if you get Kawhi's not a bad player, and you're not really downgrading that bad from Giannis. So I would do it. Or if the Rockets want, like, I would just if I was the Rockets, I would try to see if I can trade for James Harden. I'm not gonna say they will, but I think it's possible if they say, oh, if the Clippers want to, they get quiet and trade Paul George for people like assets like that. I feel like they should trade both. The Clippers trade both and get good assets like that. I feel like their team would be probably one of the best teams to have a championship. Like, yes, you're not really gonna have that much star power, but you're gonna have a lot of good guys surrounding the team. And I feel like that was like I really don't think you really need good star players to win a championship. You just need one leader on your team with good players, like stars. Not all. You really don't need all stars. You just need stars. And I think Spencer Dinwiddie on the Nets was better than Kyrie. I know Kyrie was injured, but if you get Spencer, Karis LeVert, and DeAndre Jordan, there's three good players for Paul George. Or even if you get Grant and Gary Harris, you got good shooter and good player that's keep like he's 26, but he develops every year in Derek Grant. So I feel like that would be good for them. And if they trade James Harden for Kawhi, I feel like that would be good. But if they don't and they try to get Giannis for Kawhi, I think they should do the Nets trade for Paul George, not the Nuggets, because Giannis is going to be playing power forward, so you don't need Grant. That's just my opinion. But the team I really want to talk about is the Lakers. The Lakers got a couple of options to get a point guard. Like Drew Holiday, I wouldn't get him as a point guard because he's been playing shooting guard, and I feel like he's not going to do that good as a shooting guard. So I would maintain to stick with D Rose or Chris Paul. But if they can get D Rose or Chris Paul, that would be a big W for them to get. But other than that, Lakers really don't need any players but a better point guard. So if they can't get D Rose or Chris Paul, then I'll get Drew Holiday to be that point guard because Drew Holiday is, in my opinion, underrated as a point guard or a guard. In my opinion, like he's a good defender. He can shoot the ball decently, so that'd be a good option for their team. But I just see him more as a shooting guard, in my opinion. So I would try to get Chris Paul, and if they do get Chris Paul, they guarantee to win another ring, in my opinion, because that's all they really need is a better point guard. And I seen the rumors that should the Raptors try to get DeMar DeRozan. In my opinion, I mean, I wouldn't do it if I was the Raptors because DeMar DeRozan getting up in age, so I wouldn't probably either sign him or trade him unless if you don't have to give up that much, because he hasn't really been doing good on the Spurs, but I feel like it's just how the Spurs play that makes him not the greatest option on that team. It's just the deal for the Raptors to get him that I'll consider getting DeMar DeRozan back because him and Kyle Lowry I feel like would be good still chemistry wise, but I really don't think he's going to impact the Raptors like that to get them another ring. And if I was the Miami Heat, I would either try to get Serge Ibaka since he's like a shooter, big kind of now, and he got defense at the four. Because they really don't have a good like a four that's good like that in my opinion. And if I was Dallas Mavericks, I would get rid of their backup center because he's making like 10 million for a backup center, and I feel like that's too much for a backup center. And they could trading to get their salary cap down to get a big free agency next year. And I would try to get Gordon Dragic back on the Heat. And that's if they want to cause Gordon Dragic is underrated, bro. He's a good point guard for the Heat, in my opinion. You're really not gonna get a better point guard on the Heat, in my opinion. So if I was the Heat, I'll get him back. See if he can take a pay cut because I feel like he would if they got a chance to win a ring because they did good. I feel like if they would had a better more time playing, they could. I mean, they probably wouldn't beat the Lakers because they had LeBron and AD. But they could try to get Giannis. They would probably have a bigger chance of beating the Lakers. So if I was the Heat, I would try to get Giannis because Giannis could guard AD and Jimmy Butler can guard LeBron. So I feel like that, and then you got Bam in the paint to protect the rim from them coming in, and you got Giannis who's faster than AD, so he can probably keep up with him. I'm not saying AD wouldn't be scoring. I'm just saying you just got a better defender than Bam on him. But other than that, the NBA, I hope trades happen so it's different. I would love to see Paul George either go to the Nuggets because Paul George is my favorite player. I know he did bad in the playoffs, but I would like to see him go because like me as an NBA player or NBA fan, like I knew Kawhi and Paul George wasn't going to work out, but it was interesting to see them play. I knew they wasn't going to work out because their play styles, like I want to say, kind of similar, but it's like kind of the same because they both two-way players. And Kawhi, I don't know, but you can't really read Kawhi because Kawhi is just like a robot in my opinion, and they really haven't played that much games together. So I know they didn't build no chemistry up, and they don't work together. I would say like they'll try to play both ISO type play instead of try to set each other up. I feel like if they try to set each other up, they'll play way better. And so I would either trade one of them on the Clippers or just both, because I feel like there's good players that like teams would consider trading them for. Like I feel like if they try to do the trade with Bucks, because I feel like I think they both got 1 year and an option. At least Kawhi does. And I feel like if you try to get Giannis, you have Giannis for a year, and it'll make your chemistry better, in my opinion. I mean, not better, but because it wouldn't be worse because their team's fighting. So I want to keep a fighting team because it's not going to work in chemistry wise, in my opinion. So I would try to trade them. That's a bad shot or release. I would try to trade them to get better assets, but they can't. Then it is what it is. Like like they not win a ring. I can tell you that Clippers not going to win a ring at all. It don't matter because they lose to Montrezl Harrell. They do like Patrick Beverly's not a bad point guard, but if I was them, I would try to get a better point guard. Like Clippers just in the just did bad as a team. Mostly Paul George and Kawhi, the two leaders of the team, did bad. So I feel like they made the whole team play bad. Other than that, Clippers had to do like a trade because I don't see Paul like I'm a Paul George fan, and I don't see Paul George being a second guy on a team. Like in the regular season, I can see him do that. Like he does good in regular season, but as a playoff team, he really hasn't did good since he was on the Pacers days, in my opinion. So I don't see him really doing anything that much. So if I was Clippers, I would trade him in a heartbeat, and so I can get more assets to help Kawhi or something that they keep because they said Kawhi is untradeable. So I would try to get more assets for the Clippers and trading Paul George, like the Nets or the Nuggets, because they can get a shooting guard and another small forward, power forward type player to play with Kawhi. So I feel like if they did that, it would be a perfect option for them. But I am really interested to see how the NBA comes back and other teams to play. Like I feel like the Mavericks, if the Mavericks, I think if they like Porzingis, I don't think he's a good fit for them. Like to help them win a championship. In my opinion, that's not a good second option. Like yes, Dallas almost beat the Clippers, but the Clippers are not really a good team to be in the playoffs. Like it was obvious, like people had high hopes, but like I could tell they was not going to do good in the playoffs. And if I was the Celtics, I'll try to trade for Rudy Gobert. I forgot about Rudy Gobert. If they could get Rudy Gobert for maybe like I know they don't want to trade for like away like a Kemba, but they trade away Kemba Walker and try to get Rudy Gobert. I feel like I would do that because they were lacking a big man, a defensive big man inside, and I would do that if I was them. But if I was them, I would trade for a point guard, like a Gordon Hayward trade, or they could. Nah, I don't see them doing that. I don't. Maybe they can trade Gordon Hayward for Rudy Gobert, but I don't see the Jazz doing that. If I was them, I would try to trade Gordon Hayward. There's no way he hit that. That's why I don't play 2K right there. But if they can trade Gordon Hayward for Chris Paul, I wouldn't probably do it if I was OKC Thunder. If the Celtics trade him for Chris Paul and trade Kemba Walker for Rudy Gobert, that's a good solid team, and I'll see the actually I'll see the Celtics. I would say the Celtics win it all if they had that team. But there's just a lot of possibilities, like team wise, that I would like to see players. Like I would love to see D Rose play with LeBron, even though D Rose is not his old self and like he was on the Bulls. I feel like it would just be nice to watch, or Chris Paul to play with a Giannis. Like there's just a lot of combinations I would love to see. Like I would love to see Paul George play with Jokic or Paul George play with KD and Kyrie. There's just a lot of combinations I would love to see. It's just my opinion what I think that like teams should do, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video or the stream. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe to SVKN Gaming, and have a nice day.